Oh, okay. Are you from SoCal?
I'm from Southern California, raised there as a youth until my mom moved back to Southeast Missouri with me and my brother. The people I was surrounded with, kind of wearing the LA Kings,
Me.
Raiders gear,
Yeah.
black and silver. I grew up with a
Mhm.
certain
Yep.
crowd.
Yeah. So, I'm actually, like you saw in the bio, I'm first generation American. So my parents are from Mexico. In fact, they didn't become U.S. citizens till maybe 10 years
Uh,
ago. Came to the U.S. in the 70s. My sister and I were born here. And so we grew up in that culture. Actually, English is my second language. I spoke only Spanish as a little kid. So I grew up in that kind of, in Vladimir, basically. Kind of a similar story, except that my dad was actually like a hoodlum, and he calls himself that because he was kind of that guy
yeah,
too. And he didn't want that for his kids. Our outlet was school
sure.
and sports. That's where we spent our time, and it was going to keep us distracted from doing all the other stuff that everybody else was doing. So
Wow, we might have to have a whole nother podcast then on just our time growing up in California. Were
yeah,
you initially kind of scared then going to Tennessee? Because it's completely different.
yeah,
It's a whole nother country, Tennessee,
it is.
from where we
Yeah,
grew up.
it's funny to say, like, unless you've done it, like, you don't understand what that really means. It is a whole different country, a whole different culture. And growing up in a Hispanic family, like, we grow up in that culture, even though we're in the U.S., right? The community that we're in, the people are the friends that we make, or the families that we're friends with, they're all
Yeah.
Hispanic. And so this is our life. And, constantly speaking Spanish or eating our food. And then I go, and the crazy thing, so my sister is actually 2 years older than me. And so every time that I started school, a new school, she was always already there, kind of set the foundation for things. So it wasn't like as intimidating.
Yep.
So, like, elementary school, she was already there at the same school. Middle school, same thing. High school, same thing. College, no. And so this was going to be the first time that I, like, left home to go do something without somebody going before me. And not just that, I'm actually the first person in my family on this side of the border that has graduated from college, or that graduated from college. I was the first one.
Yeah,
And so there's a lot of pressure, you know, from that too. So
absolutely. Well, do you feel like if
yeah,
it wasn't for softball, could you have made that switch from California to Tennessee?
no,
Because you
no,
mentioned your older sister kind of being the protective umbrella, maybe, as you go through
yeah,
high school, because she
yeah,
was there a couple years
hmm
ahead of you, and
oh yeah,
probably a girl that kind of looked after her little sister a little bit, probably beat you up a little
hmm
also too, and gave you some trouble,
she didn't. She didn't beat me up, but she did pick on
would
me.
pick on you. But
Yeah.
I would
Hmm.
imagine going to Tennessee then with you're with this softball team at college. That's kind of
Yeah.
your new family to help kind of protect you anyway. So you're not there just by yourself, dropped in the middle of nowhere. You at least still
Yeah,
had
totally.
softball
Hmm.
teammates to kind of
Yeah.
be your family.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And they were. The crazy thing though is, like, I was literally the one that came in from really far away. Everybody was from that area or surrounding states. They weren't very far from home. So a lot of them actually would go home on the weekends if we weren't having practices or playing tournaments or whatever. They would go home on the weekends. And actually got kind of annoying when, like, we had long stints of, like, games and stuff, and they would complain about not being able to go home after, like, 2 or 3 weeks or whatever. And I was like, whatever. Like, I can't go home. I couldn't even go home for spring break. I was basically at school all
That's a
year
long flight.
until
It's not
Christmas
like an
break.
easy drive, a couple,
No,
two,
it's
three
not.
hours.
It's a 2,000-mile trip. Yeah. 4-hour flight. Yeah.
And did you,
Yeah.
as far as like teammates, when you first got there, was it hard to kind of like, were most of your teammates from the Midwest, or did they recruit from across
No,
the country? So it was all different types of people.
most of them were from the Mid South. So you've got kids from West Tennessee, a couple from Kentucky, Arkansas, Mississippi. Yeah, mostly Tennessee, but yeah, a couple from Illinois. So
And
yeah,
was it similar backgrounds? with some to where you're able to kind of gravitate and be friends right off the bat, or was
Oh.
it a hard? For me, it was hard.
Yeah, so, I mean, look at us, like, we don't look like everybody
Oh,
here, and so and so actually, I talked to my friend Ann about this, over the weekend because we were talking about how, in our entire lives, we've always been that person that walks into a room and we're the only ones that look like us, everybody looks
depending on
different.
the area and the room, sure.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm in Columbia, Missouri, so it's
Yeah, I did.
And then in Jackson, Tennessee, you're literally in the middle of the Bible Belt, and there's so yeah, for a long time I was always the one that looked different. But talking about the softball team, the one thing that we all had in common was that we were good at playing ball. And and so in fact, my freshman year I got put in we all had a shared a dorm room together. So there were five of us in one dorm room. And that's like that's half the softball team, you know?
Right.
And so, and all of us starters, all of us really good at what we do and really strong in our positions and, doing what we're supposed to do. And that was our common ground. And so that kind of sets the tone for those relationships and then how we play on the field. And my mom's always said that I actually make friends easily. So I didn't have a hard time making friends, but um, I'm friends with a lot of people, but I don't have friends or like people that I'm really, really close to. But there was one girl on the team that I got really close to, and she's still one of my really great friends, and she's actually in the Nashville area. So, we still keep in